Welcome. I wanted to share why I stay silent even though I have a story to share. When you walk the territory of your being, the truth is everywhere around you. Richard Wagamies. Hey everybody, it's Andrea with Caracopia. I go by Cara when I'm in nature with you. And I said I would speak to you all about asexuality this week, but I have not been doing that. And here's why. I think when you share, you want to feel like you're in a safe space. And I recently realized that my parents are following me with different accounts and are following me in certain accounts that I didn't realize, and all of a sudden I just shut down. And so if you, I don't know, maybe you have this experience with people in your life that you thought were the most loving people ever, and you come to realize that they're actually narcissistic and, have different expectations of you. And I don't know, it just feels icky being around them in certain ways. Or they've maybe even made you feel like the devil or called you certain names like my parents have. And although I have forgiven them and we talk over email and they can mail me letters anytime, I do not have a close relationship with them anymore. It's been about maybe 2.5 years now. And that can be kind of triggering because it feels that you're not safe anymore when they try to, learn more about you or be involved in your life in a roundabout way. And I would much prefer that they email me directly or send me letters. That would be great. But I don't like stalking parents that I've tried to block. So yeah, I'm only sharing on this account now because I don't know, or I guess maybe I should just share on whatever account I feel like. Let me know in the comments and encourage me. I think I was severely disciplined growing up for being disobedient, for lying, and being disrespectful. This video is clear evidence that I'm still affected by this. This is a space that I'm growing in, and I can see where it's kind of held me back this week. So just wanted to be upfront with that. To be asexual to me means I don't have any sexual thoughts about people. I don't even really have a desire to think about that world, and when I'm confronted with it, I have, in the past, I've done a really good job of masking. So I've been able to kind of like play the game, like just say anything I want, be almost probably too bold with what I say. Maybe it surprises people because it doesn't mean anything to me. And I used to think that was like a more of a cool way of being, like I can say this, it's not a big deal, like we should all just be open about this. But everyone has to create their own ethic, and so I just want to respect yours. And if certain sexual things are triggering for you, then maybe you don't really want to watch this. So I'll be speaking about a couple of things that are kind of personal. So if you want to learn more, listen on. If you don't, have a good day. So I'm out in nature, which is where I feel the safest right now. I have always felt the safest in nature, and I think I escaped into nature to be myself. And so that's why I do forest bathing. I want to help people embrace who they really are when there's no expectations or agendas. You just get to enjoy beingness, who you really are. And nature doesn't judge us. We're just accepted. We just belong, just like I'm sitting here with the moss. I just am, So wherever you are and whatever you feel is the real you, I hope you embrace that along with the moss and the ferns and the berry bushes next to me. So I'm just going to take a moment to breathe for a second because I needed that. And yeah, I mean, being real online, I'm not good at sharing my story face to face. I would much rather just show a nature video or my birds or something else, right? So this is me being very vulnerable with you. And I've been married for 24 years this November. And my partner and I grew up in the church. We both followed certain roles that we were told to play. And when we met each other, we were probably more equally matched than we ever thought. So the church validated my asexuality because you're not supposed to want certain things. And I was empowered to enforce those on him. And he was shamed for a lot of the things that he suppressed. So when you have those two clashing worlds, and he did a very good job of suppressing those things, those sexual desires, those ways of being that are, so much a part of you, and you want to explore certain things, and he never allowed himself to. And I know this isn't his story, but our stories are so intertwined here. I just have to mention that. And I definitely have permission to share certain things. So yeah, I think just speaking from my perspective, when I was confronted with sexual ways of being my whole life, but yet I was told the night before I got married by my mom that you're never supposed to deny your husband, sex became a job for me. It was not about desire. It was not about my pleasure. It was not about even how to validate my way of approaching it. None of that was ever discussed, and maybe that's true for you too. I think for women, a lot of times it is. So when that's the message, the primary message you hear, and then you hear also from the church that you have to please him or else he's going to go elsewhere. So you're living in fear of that. You're living in fear of the competition. You see other women as better than you. There's just a lot of complicated things there. And then you add in kids, and they're just clingy and all over you, and then you're like, oh, I don't even want to be with this guy, but the only way I could ever connect to him when we had little kids was just feeling like I wanted him to hold me, and just the closeness. And so I really remember that time just feeling like, you know what, I just need to be close to him, and I'm not going to think about anything else. But he can sense my energy, and because I never desired those sexual things, he felt rejected by me. And so the majority of our marriage, we tried to fix me because we thought it was, my problem for not being open to certain things, not feeling good about certain things. And once we deconstructed and we left the church when I was 40, and he was like 45, we started pursuing our own ethics and our own desires and validating who we were and celebrating who we were. And that was wonderful, but guess what? It still didn't change that part of me. He was so excited to embrace who he truly was. And yet I started to feel less and less that my way was valuable, that my way was an equally good way of approaching the sexual parts of our marriage. So it wasn't until I watched Sex Education that I realized asexual was even a thing. It's so interesting because I can remember just feeling like floating on the clouds. I was the freest person in the whole world. It was like I could actually have permission to be myself and not feel like there was anything wrong with me. And he was like, oh, fuck, I'm never going to have sex again. So we kind of struggled there for a few months, definitely. Me going through every scenario in my head. Am I okay with polyamory? Am I okay with leaving him? Am I okay with never having sex again. Would I want to have sex again? And then I read, I think it's Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are. I think that's the right author. I'll try to put that in the description below. But she really helped me validate my way of being. And Angela Chen's book, about asexuality. And I'll also try to put that in the description. So, just doing so much research. And at the time, I was really alone. Had some falling outs with family and friends because of leaving the church, and then also just rewriting your life and your story. And so that part of it really changed the dynamics of my friendships at that time. So I did not know that I had squishes, that I was putting... I don't know if you can read this, but a squish is basically a platonic crush. Bigger expectations on people in my life than I should be. I didn't know that I had narcissistic behavior. I didn't know that I was there was just so much going on, right? So when you're walking through stuff like that, and especially if I can't turn to my partner, who is also my best friend, who we just deconstructed with in a very deep and personal way, which, we're so grateful for each other in those spaces. For the first time, I was really forced to actually think of myself. And it can be very difficult for an empathetic person. Even though I had narcissistic tendencies, I was so used to tapping into others people's energy and not thinking about myself, constantly denying myself, that figuring out who I was in these spaces was probably really, really important for me. It's really nice to validate who you are, and you need to validate who you are first. And that way you can validate other people's way of being too, because if there's a spectrum, and there definitely is, everybody's way of being is equally valid. And just because asexuals have a 1 or 2% exposure rate in the world doesn't mean our way is any less valuable or important way of looking at these spaces than someone that's super sexual. Okay, and I know the world celebrates a lot of sexual things, especially, everywhere you turn, movies, books, music, everything, and that used to bother me so much, and I still wish I could ignore it, to be honest. I'm getting better at just not listening to those things, but when you're with other people in those spaces that are celebrating it and are embracing it without shame, it's very hard not to ignore it, right? Especially if you're married to that person or if you're kids or whatever, right? So I got angry a lot, not feeling heard, got depressed a little bit, cried a lot. Maybe I'll show a few photos of that in between this video. Boom. And boom. So, those are hard moments to go through, and I just want you to know I've been there. And I don't know if you need to hear that or not, but whatever you're going through, you're not alone. We all go through hard shit. And I just want you to know that you're important, you're valuable, and especially know that for yourself. No one else needs to tell you. You need to know that for yourself. And so these last few years have been a journey for me, embracing who I am and loving who I am. And I haven't always done that for myself. I've always felt less than. I've always felt other people are more important. I've always compared myself, never felt good enough. The quickest way to kill something special is to compare it to something else. I guess I've been killing myself my whole life. Don't do it. And so I hope that if anything, that you can feel good enough that you can feel that your way of being in this forest, in this world, is just as important as these ferns and as other people. We're all in it together. So if you want to learn more, I'll try to post a few more videos, but you know, that's 13 minutes, almost 14 minutes. So that's quite a long time. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Till I see you in the forest again. Bye for now. Kara.